Hello, hello, hello. I think that everything, all the elements around me were trying to prevent this podcast from happening. And that's saying a lot. I think that all my steps I have taken in my life have led me to this point, and the realization of this very podcast we are about to, this journey we are about to embark on. I don't know if I lack the vocabulary or the pacing to really tell you the story. It's not about my life, but rather when I used to believe that there was some kind of mystical aspect to all of our lives, at least to my life. And let me just boost my existence by taking a bit of chocolate. I'm addicted to many things, and I've got this tendency to be addicted. I've got an addictive personality, you could say. Hold on, let me just grab a piece of that sweet, sweet Finnish chocolate. And chocolate hasn't been the only thing that I've been addicted to most of my life. The most central aspect of my life that I've been addicted to has been fear and uncertainty and doubt and not being self-reliant. And I see already forces gathering inside me that are doing their very best to prevent this podcast from ever being a reality, because I am uncertain if I lack the pronunciation skills. Us Finns are very self-aware of making any podcasts in English, because we think that our pronunciation, which is called Ralli Englanti, Rally English, that we are very self-conscious about the way we pronounce things, especially the people who grew up in the 80s. They still think that it's a bit, you could say it causes a cringe effect when you are talking. So that is already one of the aspects trying to prevent me from ever gathering my thoughts enough to actually make this podcast a reality. And even with the threat of repeating myself constantly, I'm going to attempt to leap into the unknown void, which leads us to our next subject at hand. I've been afraid most of my life of terminal disease, fatal illness, be it cancer, HIV, or anything. I wouldn't ever be able to rationalize it. How would I ever manage to get any of those? But I would still be afraid of having them. And this would be the state of my life all the way until I am now 42 years old. And always I am using cruel language to put myself down. So I would be here when I'm the most vulnerable, and I would speak bad things about myself, so that I would laugh. I would join the haters and laugh at myself, so that I could hide behind a smile while I'm hurting myself. And I would be weak and afraid most of my life. But I recently listened to a Gabor Mate podcast, and they spoke about tender people actually being shamans in the past, not the past life, but past hundreds of years, when When things were different, us tender folk wouldn't have been labeled as weak. We would have been the shamans of this village, of this community. And my problem is that when I make a value call, when I say something, I am always afraid that it will label me. And I am always afraid of being labeled as a crazy person, someone who lives on the outskirts of society. And so that has been preventing me from speaking out all my life. But not necessarily all my life. This change came about 9 years ago. I don't know if I've ever been that big into mysticism, but I do feel that there is a certain sense of ancestry that is leading me on in this life. Of course, it feels like I'm only trying to soften my existence by making myself meaningful and trying to counter my fear of dying with something supernatural. That is perfectly normal. But when it's a mistake to mix these two things together, but one of my psychedelic experiences led me very close, or at least it felt like a near-death experience. I felt that I had chosen my playlist of songs to kind of challenge me. I would always think that the scary songs would be the ones that would frighten me and stir up negative thoughts. But it was the beautiful songs that went into my head when they told me that now it's time to... I don't know, this is really bad for me to talk about. It's really a sensitive subject. So I'm not sure even now if I could take the leap of talking about this out loud. But the message was loud and clear, and it was time to kill myself. And I called up my brother to say that I love him, and then I was instructed to end my existence on this plane. And naturally I didn't go ahead with the impulse that came inside me, came from within, but rather I ran outside. And I went to the next door neighbor, which happened to be a very good friend of mine. And before that I asked him online if it's okay if I come over. And then he approved, even though it was a bit strange for me to all of a sudden ask if I can come over. And I cried in his lap because of the things that I have experienced. And it's safe to say that he actually saved my life that day. Not necessarily that I would have had the courage to kill myself, but it felt really oppressive. The nature of that room was bittersweet. I had a beautiful song playing, and it was like it's time to let go and it's time to pass on. And I had to leave I had to run, but something has led me to believe that I probably should have stayed and stood my ground against that emotion, that sensation of ending my life, because I think that I have now I have some unfinished business with the spirit realm. You see, because maybe it was that very moment when I should have been able to let go but not in the sense I have misinterpreted the message so that it was to kill myself, but rather to let go of my fear. And that was the I'm not blaming myself. It wasn't really easy. I don't think it's easy ever to accept your own mortality and be like, this is your room of death. So I exited the room, the apartment, and I feel like I should have stood my ground that day, because after that nothing has ever been really the same. And I've always been frightened, but I think that was an ancestor of sorts telling me it's okay. I'm not saying it's now time to die, but it's okay, and you can let go of your fear of mortality. And I failed to do so. So ever since that point, I've been in a certain state of dissociation from the world. And I'm not blaming that one incident, and I'm not blaming mushrooms. I am blaming nothing. These steps that I have taken have all been pre-laid on the destiny's path, so to speak, because I'm not really in control of my life. From the moment I was born, it has been difficult, and I'm not saying that it isn't difficult for all of us, but my addiction led me to certain roads that I was desperate of getting rid of some longing inside. Longing to accept myself, I think, because I've always had I like to make a clown of myself. I like to joke around, make people laugh, at least I try to. But it's my shield of sorts. The comedy. Hold on, this ergonomy is killing me. The way of the humor, it has always been my last shield. When you penetrate it, you find that I am very weak and malleable. You can say something negative to me and it'll fester within. I guarantee you that afterwards it will be a long road to shake that comment off. And so that's when I resort to anger, fear, comedy, anything, desperation. I will even pray my opponents to spare my life in a way, because I remember that all my engagements in my youth were that I was begging them not to beat me up, and they always did. Let's see, where was I? But since then, I've tried to become a more cynical version of myself. I would like to name this podcast Surely This World is Full of Spells. World. And I feel that the mystical side of me is only trying to make me accept mortality. And then the cynical side of me is trying to... The human side. What is the side that wants me to get like psychiatric help? Which I am on the process of doing. I'm taking the necessary steps to meet up with a psychologist. And that will be one of the paths that I will take. But I always thought about that experience 9 years ago, that what if it was some sort of psychedelic trauma that I've been left scarred with? How would you treat such a trauma, and how would you approach it? Because I have now, I didn't, I survived, but I'm not sure if I handled it the way a shaman would. You were supposed to let go and stand toe to toe with these demons, and I failed. I ran. I escaped the situation. And afterwards, I have felt defeated. I'm not sure. I always had also these hedonistic tendencies, and I don't really force myself to face anything. It's always about delicacies and addictions and dreaming about a better tomorrow, but never actually taking the necessary steps to get forward in life. Just laying around and being afraid of dying. My current fear is colon cancer, and I've always had this recent years I've come to feel that I don't really have a sense of appetite anymore, and I'm always afraid. But today I was feeling it a bit different, more relaxed. I think that even with my fear, every day can be an incredible adventure. I think that we need to study how I perceive my surroundings. How does one perceive his or her surroundings? Because it feels like a prison when you are depressed. But when you are a shaman, it feels like a mystical adventure of sorts. I think that everything here feels like it doesn't belong, but then again, other side of me feels that everything is in its place and everything is already perfection, and I should be more gentle with myself. And the acceptance is lingering behind a certain door, but the lock and the key has gone missing. I'm not sure where I have, at which point did I misplace it, but I do get a sense of warmth behind the door that has been left unopened. And because we are now talking about supernatural experiences also, I would like to tell you about an anecdote. I'm not sure if that's the correct word to use. I had an experience a couple of nights ago. I was trying to sleep. I was very tense because I had personal and relationship problems at the time. And I felt this. I was half past asleep in a dream state, and I felt that I heard some rumbling from the, not outside, but where the staircase is, where people go to their respective apartments, and I felt this drumming, that somebody was observing me, and they were instinctually knowing my fears, and that they had figured me out. And I awoke from that, and I could still hear the drumming, which had already meshed together with the ambience of the apartment next door, which had a party going on. But suddenly I had this uneasy sensation of feeling that someone was aware of me. Something was aware of me next door, even though I was sleeping and not like making any noise or anything. So it felt like a connection on a spiritual level, and quite possibly a malevolent entity. But I'm not sure still if it's all about malevolence or evil entities. I think that there was an ancestor trying to guide me to love myself and let go of my addictions, or I should probably accept my addictions and live with them in moderation. But it was a bad feeling when you are like, I've always been afraid of going insane. That is one of my central fears in life, and I'm not even sure how would you formulate, how would you like have a frame of reference about what does it mean to go insane. And of course it's always something negative. Anxiety, delusions, and feeling like somebody is there. I'm not sure how to, but that's something that I haven't been able to measure. What does it even mean to go insane? But that's one of my central fears. So when I felt that sensation of being observed while I was halfway into my dreaming realm, that's when I felt again, that's the time when I felt that I must be going insane. And it wasn't a bad experience. I don't think that I should label it as an unpleasant experience afterwards, because I've had mercy come into my life afterwards. I'm still afraid, I'm still angry, I'm still jealous, but I'm also at peace in a weird, unfathomable way, because I'm never at peace with anything. Because I'm always afraid of dying, of cancer, of going insane. It's always here. It's always haunting me. But now that I have re-entered this realm as my current self, I wouldn't even be able to make this podcast without my present self being here to guide me through these uncertainties, because I'm always very self-aware. I shouldn't be doing these things, and I shouldn't be speaking in English, anything like that. Everything has something to do with me trying to prevent myself from reaching my fullest potential, and when I am trying to say that that is a malevolent entity or something bad is going to happen, I think that I am misinterpreting the signals to be evil when they are the ancestors guiding me and trying to make me help me let go of this self-disgust. And also the fear of dying. I should make peace with that I am going to die. I am going to die, and there is nothing that you can do. When death exists, I do not. Or so the saying goes. So there is nothing to be afraid of. I guess I'm afraid of disappearing. But who is there to experience the disappearance of Petri Ranta? That is my name. Afterwards I'm gone. I'm not here to lament that I feel that this is the dream. This existence is the dream, and everything that I'm experiencing is like the dream. And being back everywhere is the reality. I'm now here. This is now here experiencing itself, but this is not. There is no me, but there is something like this has come to be, and this is now afraid of death. But this is not reality. Or is it reality? And how should I perceive reality? And if this is not me, then who is the ancestor? Do I even exist? And if I exist, do I exist only through my fears? Because this room has been incredible. It has played as a certain role in imprisoning me and imprisoning my mind, but I still feel that this is like my domain, my dream realm, and my realm of storytelling. It feels like it holds a limitless potential to me. Even though I am always afraid of dying, it makes the days so meaningful. This podcast wouldn't exist without my fear of dying. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't weak. I wouldn't exist as myself if I wasn't weak. I wouldn't exist as myself if I wasn't afraid. I wouldn't create if I wasn't afraid. Because when I am afraid, I can momentarily open the curtains of fear and see this realm of storytelling and different kind of experiences that I've had that have been they have shaken me up, of course, and it's been horrible. And I'm always afraid of insanity. But first we should define insanity, because of course what I'm telling you now can easily be perceived as a mentally unwell person speaking out loud on this podcast. So I guess I'm just hoping that you can open up I can open up certain dialogue with anyone who is listening out there. That is a Big Trouble in Little China reference, a great movie from the 80s. And I'm hoping that we can have some sort of discussion through what I have experienced. I haven't even been able to scrape the surface. It was just a small reference to all of the experiences. And my vocabulary and my pronunciation limits me further. But I'm hoping that through talking I can probably get rid of that fear as well. Or at least learn to coexist with my fears. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you someday soon in some form or in some state. Thank you and bye bye.